Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to everyone who has been watching my videos, liking, subscribing, and commenting on them. The channel has reached over 1,000 subscribers, and that is an enormous number. Thank you so much to everyone who's been sticking around. I know the videos have been taking quite a while to come out. Still, thank you so much for all the support that you've been showing and all the kind comments that you've left. I really appreciate it, so thank you. But without further ado, let's get into this video. My journey into software engineering started a really long time ago, and actually at the time, I didn't even realize what I was doing. In 2006, LEGO released this, the Mindstorm NXT kit. The kit included several motors, a bunch of sensory input nodes, and a massive brick that you would use to connect all of this together. And you could connect it to your computer and use a GUI in order to program it. I was very young at the time, and I didn't realize what I was actually doing. All I wanted to do was to build a robot and then make it walk around and avoid running into walls and turn directions when it sensed a specific colored ball. Now, obviously, I wasn't great at this. I mean, after all, I was still a kid, and honestly, it was a miracle that I actually got anything working. Even downloading the software from the CD that was provided posed a massive challenge to me, because I just didn't understand what was really happening. After what felt like ages, I finally managed to get the software installed on my computer, and I was ready to connect this thing and start programming. The way that the programming worked back then was you had a GUI and you had these bricks that you would pull and connect with lines. Really, all it was doing was representing sensory inputs as blocks and representing possible actions, such as moving a motor by another block, and then connecting those two together in order to achieve some sort of programming. While it was a very rudimentary form of programming, I actually really enjoyed doing it. To be honest though, at the time, I much preferred building the physical robot and not so much programming it. My next dose of programming exposure came in 10th grade when I took an online Java course. One of my friends had done it previously, and he recommended that I give it a shot as well. Now, you might think that after this course I was completely hooked on programming, but it was actually the opposite. The course was about 4 weeks long, and during that time I was so frustrated. We were using NetBeans in order to write the code, and I just couldn't get it working. And once I did, it felt like I had missed so much content, and just reading up on it didn't help whatsoever. In fact, I was so confused that anything more than a simple if statement would wreak complete havoc on my brain. Even printing things to the console felt like it was completely impossible. I just didn't understand how anything worked. So, after going through that experience, I was kind of turned off by the idea of programming. It seemed like it was this impossible thing reserved for only the smartest people. Now, I still had 2 years of high school left, so I decided forget about programming and do something else that you actually enjoy. Now, you're probably asking yourself the question, why on earth did you decide to do computer science if you didn't like programming? So, when it was time to pick what universities I wanted to apply to, I had to go and actually read through some of the syllabus and look at the courses that they offered. I remember looking at some of the computer science courses from some of the universities that I was looking at, and honestly, I was really drawn to them. The courses themselves sounded really interesting, and it kind of grabbed my attention and sort of lit that fire in me that wanted to go and explore. One evening, I decided to go and talk with my parents about what they thought and what they would do if they were in my shoes. And I remember my dad telling me that if there is something that interests you that much, then I should go and give it a shot. My parents would stand behind me and support me in my decision. And that was when I made up my mind. I wanted to give computer science a shot. I wanted to get better at programming, and I wasn't going to let one bad experience with a Java course in 10th grade stand in my way. During my time at university, I was never really able to pinpoint the area where I actually wanted to work in and focus on. So I've thrown the list of all the courses that I have taken up on screen, and you'll probably notice that it's an absolute mess. It's really just a mishmash of a bunch of different things that I thought sounded interesting at the time. Now, some people might say that this is a very inefficient way to go about it. You're taking a bunch of classes and you're banking on the fact that maybe they're as interesting as they sounded on paper. But I think there is a different way of looking at this. If you take a class and you end up not really enjoying it, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because really what you've done is you have figured out what it is that you don't want to do, and ultimately, figuring that out can be extremely valuable. Essentially, you are narrowing down the search space and making it easier to find the things that you're actually passionate about and that truly interest you. Now, I actually ended up being faced with a bit of a different problem. I did all these different and varied things, and I ultimately enjoyed all of them. Now, at the same time, a bunch of my friends at university had a pretty good idea what they wanted to do. Some of them really wanted to go into AI. Others were set on becoming full-stack devs. Initially, that added a lot of pressure to me, because I felt like I had to specialize as well. But looking back, I don't think that's true. I think what is most important is that you do what you think is interesting. Find the classes that you enjoy and spend your time doing things that you want to do. That is the most important thing that I have learned in those 4 years at university. Follow your passion. Don't follow what everyone else is doing, because you're not them. You don't have to be them. You have to do what is best for you. Now, all of that said, by the end of the 4th year, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Did I want to do something like robotics or embedded software, maybe cybersecurity? Or did I want to do something completely different, like becoming a full-stack dev or doing machine learning? I just didn't know, because there were so many things that interested me. And in one way, it made looking for a job a lot more difficult. I think the most difficult part was tailoring my CV to the positions where I was applying. Because I was interested in so many different things, what it meant was that I had to adjust my CV for each one of them separately. For example, if I'm applying to a position where Apache Spark and big data is at the forefront, then it doesn't help me to come along and say, hey, I've done robotics, because it's not really relevant for that position. And that is what made finding a job initially so difficult. But in another way, it actually made it easier. Because I was interested in so many things, it didn't really matter where I applied to, because most places sounded interesting to me. Once I finished university, I spent roughly 3 months looking for a job, and ultimately, I ended up accepting a position at Abbott as a full-time software engineer. My work was centered around figuring out how to improve some of the developer experience and working on some general DevOps topics. But this didn't last for very long. In fact, pretty quickly, I started to be more and more engaged with the actual medical devices and working on the embedded systems that were used. After about a year and a half in my role, I spent some time working on internal testing tools, which gave me a completely different perspective and was a really great learning experience. At around the 2-year mark, I would redirect my focus to the actual medical devices, and I would once again be working with embedded systems. At the same time, there was a need to build more internal development tools, so I took on part of that responsibility as well, which was great because not only was I working on the actual embedded device, but I would also be building internal tooling that other teams could use when developing the devices. Overall, I think this variety was really good, and it helped me become a better engineer. If you have watched some of my previous videos, then you might be aware that I'm actually not working at Abbott anymore. I've relocated and I'm now working at Google. As of recording this video, it's been a little bit under a month since I've started working at Google, and it's been incredible so far. Now, for those of you who are wondering, I'm actually still working on embedded systems. To be more precise, I've joined the Google Pixel team. I don't know what the future holds, but I can't wait to take you guys along on this journey with me. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to leave a like, and if you enjoy the topics that I've covered so far, why not subscribe for more? I would love to hear what your journey has been like. And of course, if you have any questions, then feel free to just plop them down in the comments below, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. Thank you again so much for watching. I wish you an awesome rest of the day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.